What is this? I never seen a real gun before.
Maya, stop right there. Guns are not toys. You need to be very careful. Let me help you. Whenever you see a gun, don't touch it. Always alert a responsible adult immediately. Now let's find out where this gun came from.
I'll take that gun for evidence. We need to figure out who it belongs to and how it ended up here.
However, let's use this opportunity to cover 6 points about firearm safety.
Number 1, lock it up. Always store your gun in a secure and locked location. Number 2, know your target. Be aware of what you're aiming at and what is beyond it.
Keep your finger off the trigger until ready to shoot. Educate yourself. Take a gun safety course and familiarize yourself with your firearm.
Point number 5, always treat a firearm as if it's loaded. Just because the magazine's not in it doesn't mean there's not a bullet in the chamber. The 6th and final point, never point your gun at anything you're not willing to destroy. The Eagle of Justice.
It's important to remember that improper handling or misuse of a firearm can lead to accidental discharge, potentially resulting in a much larger and more dangerous situation.
Kraken and I can help track down the owner of the gun. Let's get to the bottom of this.
It is illegal to abandon a gun in a public place. We must find the responsible party.
Oh no, Be Safe and that kid found the gun I was trying to hide.
Ooh, you fool! We need to find a way to steal it back before we get in trouble.
There they are. Kraken found Rob You Blind and Treacherous Tony.
Ooh.
Oh man, Be Safe.
We did it!
Great job, Maya. You helped prevent a dangerous situation. Remember, gun safety is everyone's responsibility. Well, there you have it. Another successful mission in promoting gun safety. Remember, kids, if you ever find a gun, don't touch it. Tell a responsible adult immediately.
Thank you for teaching me, Sergeant Be Safe.
And that's a wrap to our caper. Rob You Blind and Treacherous Tony, you're back to jail again. Remember, gun safety, kids. And that's your tip of the day. Get you on your way.
Yes, to say very important message.
Ladies, stop with the filters, okay? Really stop with the filters, because you become a missing person. We're out here looking for Miss America when we should be looking for Sasquatch.
Before we get down to the jail, are you hungry? Because the jail won't feed you. I'm being super nice right now. Before we get down to the jail, are you hungry?
Don't try to hold me and be like, psych.
They don't answer the question.
Yes, I'm hungry.
Then have a cup of shut the fuck up.
You shut the fuck up!
Welcome to Black and Blue, the podcast that brings you the untold stories behind the badge. Every week at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we dive deep into the lives of our unsung heroes, the first responders and law enforcement officers who put their lives on the line to protect us all. So join us as we humanize the badge. We shed light on the incredible individuals who wear it proudly, from rookies just starting out on their journey to seasoned vets with years of experience, even retirees who continue to make a difference in their communities. Come with us and discover the trainings that mold us. The unforgettable experiences that make us. And the publications that inspire us to push forward. So buckle up and get ready to embark on a thrilling journey through the lives of those who protect and serve. This is the heartbeat Black and Blue. Black and Blue, where the stories behind the badge are true. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my Black and Blue crew. It is amazing to be with you again tonight. I am your coach. I'm your host. I'm a little tongue-tied. I got to get the butterflies out. I apologize. I'm your host. I'm Coach Clee. I'm your motivational speaker, your empowerment coach, your author, and your favorite baker's favorite baker. And I'm also Ecclesiastics. Let me get that up here on the screen. Ecclesiastic 302. You guys know that. The coldest code switching detective. And I'm here to bring you a dynamic show. Clee, CLEE, continuing law enforcement edutainment. And we're going to educate and entertain at the same time. I apologize for all that. This is Black and Blue. This is the podcast that's just for you, where we go live weekly at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And when we go live on 5 different platforms. We're live on 2 platforms on Facebook, 2 platforms on YouTube, and 1 on LinkedIn. All right. And we go live with the first responder or law enforcement officer in your community. And they talk about their trainings, their experiences, and their publications. And we also talk about their, it doesn't matter whether they're rookie season or retiree. And we got a special guest for you right now that specializes with law enforcement, but we'll touch on that momentarily. The 5 different platforms that we're streaming on live right now. So make sure you guys subscribe and hit that like button. We want to get that algorithm going. So hit that like button to keep this thing going. This is also a fully live and entertaining show. So therefore, what you put in the comment section, if you want that shout out, I see a couple people are already out there. Make sure you put your name and where you're from in the comment section. I'll give you that shout out that you're looking for. We already see Jeff Dawkins, the Eagle of Justice, is on here. Shout out to him. He's the guy who introduced and connected me and the guests that we have here. Most of you may know her. Her name's Kim Cairns. She's a dynamic person. Thank you. Shout out to you, Jeff. We also got Seti P on here. Appreciate you. A couple of the Eagle of Justice is right there. I see you. What up? Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. And if you have a question, make sure you guys put that in the comment section and I'll highlight it on the screen and we'll acknowledge that question to the best of our ability. Understand there's about a 30-second time delay from the time that you post it till the time that I see it. So be patient. We might actually be on to another topic, but we'll get to those comments and conversations when you can. All right. This platform is sponsored by One Way Publishing. One Way Publishing is the book publishing company, for one, that produced the Sergeant Be Safe cartoon that you see and you'll see throughout the course of this podcast. Also, the 5 couple books that I've written and their clients that have written a bunch of books as well through One Way Publishing. One Way Publishing, their motto is they can turn a mere thought and turn it into a book that's bought. So if you ever wanted to write a fiction, nonfiction, biographical, cookbook, whatever you think it can be done. They have artists, they have ghostwriters, they have formatters, they have photographers that can get that thing done. If you also want to be a voiceover for a Sergeant Be Safe cartoon, or you actually want to be featured on the platform itself, workwithclee.com. Let me put that on. You see it scrolling below. That's the website that you want to go for One Way Publishing and or this podcast itself. I see Salcedo. I see Genevieve is on here. Happy to be watching from Phoenix, Arizona as well. Thank you. Again, another connection through Jeff Dawkins, the Eagle of Justice. We're just going straight down the line and having a good time while we do it. We're going to be featured on Spotify as well. That'll be uploaded hopefully later on by tonight. So make sure you guys, if you aren't logged into that or subscribed to that, make sure you guys check that out. Dr. Sauce for the win. I see you there. absolutely. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, without further ado, I'm going to stop my talking because you guys didn't come here to see me talk or go ahead and griff about so many things about One Way Publishing or Sorry to Be Safe or the wonderful things that are going on in the world. We missed a live last week. A lot of things are going on. We're continuing the pipeline. This is a fun educational live. It's the beginning of November. This is perfect right around the corner for Thanksgiving because we're going to be talking about nutrition and health and wellness and organized strategies for first responders and law enforcement to actually stay healthy while on shift. If you're working a rotation, if you're working a set schedule, or if you're just working that high stress environment, we're going to cover all that. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I got a functional nutritionist here. Kim's been a functional nutritionist since 2018, but not only that, she specializes with law enforcement officers and first responders. She's been doing this being a public speaker and educator for over 18 years. Ladies and gentlemen, she got her bachelor's degree in communication from the University of New Mexico. She's also been an athlete playing softball as a catcher at that same university. She holds a master's degree in health and education from the Concordia University in Portland. She was a high school teacher for 15 years, teaching phys ed and health classes, other things, what have you do. She's a wife, she's a mother, and she's an all-around fun person. We were talking backstage before I pulled her on the stage, and it was dynamic. We were talking on the phone a couple days ago, and it already changed my life, just changed the game for me. And I'll explain that later on because I don't want to take anything from her. Kim, are you there? I'm going to bring her to the stage now.
Hi.
Kim.
What an intro. I feel like all puffed up from that intro. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on the show and blessing us with your experiences and education. I feel puffed up that you said yes and felt good enough to come on the show. I appreciate you.
Of course. I appreciate being here, and I've watched many of your podcasts, so I feel honored to be a part of it.
Thank you. And shout out again to the Eagle of Justice. He's on here. She's talking about she's the bomb. I believe it. Genevieve, what up? There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Kim, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, some things that I may have missed or mistaken or did not cover?
Yeah, you covered a lot. I think you've covered a lot of my past and what I've done in terms of that athletic background. I was born and raised in Portland, Oregon. I grew up in a very Italian family, so I had a really strong upbringing when it came to health and nutrition. If you remember the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, that movie, that was my house, but Italian. So my grandma would be like, "You're too skinny, Kim. You need to eat something. Here's some bread or something." But I grew up with an Italian grandmother. I grew up with a mom who was putting apple cider vinegar in her water in the 80s. And people are like, "What is she doing?" And we had a garden and all those things. And that really transpired into learning about health and wellness at a really young age, getting that foundational groundwork at a really young age. Softball was a big part of my life from the time I was 9 years old till I was 17. All I wanted to do was play Division I softball. I would wear a University of Arizona sweatshirt because that's where I wanted to go. That's
nice.
Everywhere. And people got mad at me, when I'd be in Duck and Beaver Town in Oregon. But ultimately, I went to the University of New Mexico because I felt like I could have the greatest impact as a freshman. And also being a catcher, I had this vantage point throughout my career to, see people at their best and see people at sometimes their hardest games, right? And so I bring a lot of that into my teaching when I teach first responders is one, the tactical athlete, because that's what first responders are, right? That's what we signed up for. And then the other being that, being able to lift them up and be able to hold them accountable and encourage them throughout this wellness journey, I think is really, really where I see myself being more so than a nutritionist. I see myself being a coach for them as well. But yeah, you covered my high school career. I pretty much became a high school teacher just to play dodgeball, just being honest.
That's fun in itself, if you ask me.
Yeah, I had a great technique too. I would throw a ball up in the air and you'd see these kids go up to catch it. And then I would just drill them with my catcher's arm. It's great. I loved my job.
That was my technique for snowball fights here in Pennsylvania. So I understand. It was great.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I did that for a good 15 years. And then about 3.5 years ago, my family, we moved out here to Arizona for sunshine and just, all the outdoors things. And I landed this job at a primary care clinic, what I'm currently doing now, where I get to work with first responders in a clinical setting one-on-one where I support a provider. I like to think of it as kind of a naturopathic approach without pushing meds, because so much we see that in healthcare, and so much we see first responders not being listened to or taken care of, and be able to not just push a med on them, but actually give them a sustainable plan. So that's what my role is. So I do a lot of one-on-ones in clinics. And then the absolute love of my job is I get to go out to stations. I get to go to wellness events, AOT trainings, and teach groups of law enforcement and firefighters. So that's where I can reach people. And it goes back to my roots as a catcher to be able to reach people in a team, in a squad, and not just lift them up individually, but as a group, and how they can help support each other. So was that good, filling in the gaps?
That was great. That was perfect. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing. Yes. Shout out to you, Gregory Foster. I see you. Good evening. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you guys tag, like, and share so we can get this information out here. But Kim, I was impressed when we talked on the phone, and I said it then as well, that being athletes, and we talked about having that conditioning, having that skill, having that competitive drive in us. And it transcends the law enforcement, because law enforcement officers are former athletes on a collegiate level, sports itself, or if they weren't athletes playing football, baseball, some sort of hockey, something. Then they normally went the military route per se. So then they were athletes in the grand scheme of things, learning tacticals, strategies, or just being Army Rangers or Special Forces, Navy SEALs, things like that. They joined a special elite group. Then we get into law enforcement, and it seems like we've worked our whole lives building our bodies up, being competitive and being the best that we can be, only to get on shift work to have it all crumble down. Is that your experience dealing with first responders? And well, yeah, I'll leave that question there. I have a part 2 for that question, but I'll hold on to that.
Yeah. So what you really pointed at is something that I spend a great deal of time, my first and second appointments with people, or if I'm going out in the field, is that we think about sometimes health as just, we focus on an outcome goal. We focus on having more energy, losing weight, having better sleep, all these things. And somewhere along the line, whether we start as an athlete or we didn't, we forget about not just the outcome goal, but the behaviors. And we forget about fundamentals, right? So did you say you played a sport? Didn't you say you played something?
I played semi-pro football, and I was also in the Army. I was a parachute rigger.
Okay. So let's start on the football side. Okay. So the idea is you would practice during the week and ultimately to get to the big game, right?
Right.
Absolutely. So what did you do in practice? What did you do during those times? Fundamentals, right?
There you go. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I answered your question. I answered my own question.
It's all right.
You
made my job easy.
I didn't do a teacher pause. I'm supposed to do a teacher pause. I forget that sometimes because I get so excited.
It's all right.
Yes. So what was your position, and what were some of the fundamentals that you worked on?
So I was a defensive end and a linebacker, and we worked on, of course, conditioning, stretching, while we're off, hydration, proper amounts of sleep, calisthenics, burpees, drill things, up downs, all those functional drills to get your body moving and to stay healthy and keep you loose.
Yes, burpees. I have a love-hate relationship with those. Now as an old lady,
we all do.
My body feels different when I do them. A lot more movement everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dial that in now. When we think about first responders, I teach a lot of pre-academy, and I see these very excited young men and women that are there ready to take it all in. And they're in usually have some pretty good fundamentals at that point. And then they get thrown into shift work. and then they have a new baby comes along, and all these factors start happening within their career. And somewhere in that that time span, we lose fundamentals, right? We lose that foundational groundwork where we started because of life, and that's a normal thing to happen. So instead of focusing on a outcome goal, I focus on behaviors with my first responders. And first and foremost, as an example, would be starting your morning with water. Like that is like, for us to talk about it, we're like, yeah, that makes sense. But so many of my first responders don't even drink water until after lunch or midday. And they start with an energy drink to get that bump in energy. Yet we forget a fundamental of drinking water and throwing in some electrolytes, which we'll talk about throughout the show, is essential to energy. That's a foundational groundwork, right? Another one being how we start our morning. What's the first thing that we eat in the morning? That sets the groundwork for our cravings throughout the day. It sets the groundwork for how our energy and our mood is going to be. So I think a big part of what happens and transpires is kind of honing in on building a good foundation. And when we get off during shift work and we get off of that foundation, how do we repair it, and how do we go back to what we know, right?
Yes. Yep. So it's amazing that you say that. I know from when we talked on the phone and just from watching a podcast that you were on previously, before you even directed me to, I listened to you and I was like, well, I'm gonna try this. And I know that this is something that you told the Eagle of Justice to do as well. Not to throw you out there, Jeff, but I heard that the first thing you used to eat in the morning was some junk or rubbish. And then you switched over and started drinking room temperature ice water with lemon juice and Himalayan salt. And so since that conversation, I've been doing that every single morning since then. I've been waking up and doing that. And then I would actually go in and go do my workout. And it's amazingly weird because by the time I would get to lunchtime, I think that's when my first appetite would really set in, even though I had a small breakfast. And I would get to work and I would get by lunchtime, I'm like, I'm actually hungry a lot later than I normally would be if I just wake up and drink a cup of coffee first.
That's interesting. So my question is, when I tell people do something, I always like to say, but what's the why? Why are we doing it? Right? It's not just because a lot of the guys call it Kim's fancy cocktail water in the morning, right? It's amazing how many fire stations have bowls of lemon and salt in their fire stations now. But the idea is that's a simplistic thing that's attainable, that's not out of anybody's capacity. It's one little thing that we can start trying, right? That's a foundational thing, right? So if your goal is to drink more water throughout shift, we got to think, cool, that's the goal. What's the plan? The plan is to put that drink on your nightstand. So you're ready and you wake up. That's the first thing you do. It starts becoming so habitual, like brushing your teeth, that it becomes part of your day. I've been doing it for three years now. And if I didn't do it, it would feel weird.
Gotcha.
Now, why do we need salt? And why should we do that? Lemon.
That threw me for a loop hearing the salt itself, but yeah.
Yeah. So what do we sweat? What do we sweat on shift? You guys are all like, right? What are we sweating? Salt. Our bodies. Yeah. Our bodies are 90% water. Okay. So we can drink a shit ton of water. Is it okay if I swear? I feel
we're good to go. This is a law enforcement podcast.
Okay, you're that's what I figure. I just wanted to feel the audio. Your intro kind of alluded that I could. So so if we can drink a shit ton of water on shift, great. But if we're diminished in electrolytes, magnesium, sodium, potassium, all those good stuff, it has the word electrolyte for a reason, because that's how our body operates, right? Electricity, that's how our heart operates, all those things. So what we need to do is, by hydrating without sugar, right? We don't want a bunch of sugar first thing in the morning. We'll go into that. But if we hydrate with a nice pinch, just in about 12 ounces of room temp water, because it absorbs quicker. And then we add in lemon for digestion, metabolism, vitamin C. You're hitting your body with all that goodness that's going to start everything, right? Your body's going to be dehydrated when it wakes up. You kickstart it, as opposed to hitting yourself with caffeine and sugar first thing. When we do that, our cortisol rises in the morning. So when we hit it with caffeine and sugar, we're going to have a bigger tank. Think of it like a roller coaster, right?
Okay.
Your energy is going to tank a lot sooner. Your mental capacity, mental resiliency, you're going to be having more brain fog because you've hit yourself with so much caffeine and sugar. If I can get a first responder just to start like you did, the buy-in is great because you start feeling better. And it's a simplistic thing that you're not spending a bunch of money on, and it's a starting point.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I'm hearing this as well. When I said I'll give this a try, but this is going to taste awful as well. Like, it's just something that I'm just going to have to chug, just be a beast about it, just chug it and be done with it. Just go and just be. I'm not saying it tastes good, but it does. It just tastes like a different version of water. Like, it's drinkable. It's not something I would ask for at a restaurant, but it's drinkable.
But here's the trick with that. I was teaching a group of I think it was lieutenants and some assistant chiefs. And one of the guys was like, Kim, I tried it. I can't do it. It's so gross. And I said, well, how much salt did you put in? He goes, like a tablespoon. I'm like, good God, you're like drinking the ocean. All you need is a pinch. If you taste too much of it, it's too much. You just need a little bit to get your body going. So that would be my encouragement to you too. And you'll be surprised when you start a different kind of regime when it comes to what you're actually putting in your body, your taste buds start changing. We're so apt to want sugar first thing in the morning, or, something in our coffee to sweeten it up. When you start changing what you're eating and what you're feeding your gut, your taste buds follow along. And I'm saying this from a recovering, a little bit of coffee with all the cream person. So
I believe that makes sense. You got the Eagle of Justice in here talking about boom. She obviously had a great impact on me. I'm eating jalapeno bacon pizza with a Coke Zero. There you go, Jeff.
That's his cheat day. We'll allow him that.
Yeah, he gets away with that one. The 80-20 rule.
That away.
Nothing Coach Klee can't do. I appreciate the motivation. And then true story as far as the taste buds changing.
Yeah, absolutely.
The palates, yes. Mm-hmm. I can believe that. That's science. So let me ask you, how did you actually gear towards law enforcement and first responders with nutrition and health and fitness itself?
Yeah, such a great question. What I do kind of fell into what I'm currently doing kind of fell into my lap when I first moved here. I got in front of a couple certain people, and it just kind of blended my athletic background and my teaching background. I started clinical work. So I started being a nutritionist in a clinical setting. We do occupational health where we're doing physicals for first responders, but we're also doing a primary care. And so one day I had an assistant chief, I think it was like 2 months into my job. I had an assistant chief come into my office, and I was walking him through kind of a health plan of, what the lab showed and how I can help. And I told him I used to be a teacher, and he was like, so can you come teach AOT, advanced officer training, for those listening, to my officers? We've never had nutrition as part of our wellness component. And I'm like dying inside because I have no idea like what teaching 40 officers in a room would feel like, being the only female. You know what I said to him? I'm like, hell yeah, I can do that. And inside I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, how would I do this? So it came about, and I created this presentation that I always do for kind of my first go is my foundational how to maximize your nutrition on shift. It's a lot of the things you and I are discussing right now. Right. And I went through it, and I did it, and I taught 28 classes, usually being the only female. They're coming off the range with their weapons on the tables, and I'm used to teaching high school, so I'm like, but I'm used to teaching teenagers too, so it kind of translated with some of the guys' attention span.
And probably the jokes.
Of course. But my personality is I had to shoot it right back, right? So the first 2 minutes, all of you at law enforcement are reading me like, what is she going to teach me that's not different than what we've already heard? Because there's been a lot of wellness initiatives and things that I'm sure you guys have heard over your career. So my approach isn't about teaching the food pyramid and about telling them to eat their vegetables. It's hearing them and hearing you guys of where you currently are, and meeting you there and devising a plan from there. It's not judgment. It's not telling you you should, or this is bad, or this is good. It's literally wherever you are in life, let's meet there and let's devise a plan. So that's kind of how it all started. Now with law enforcement and first responders, as we know, it's a small knit group. You guys are family. You guys, if you like something, you talk about it. If you dislike something, you talk about it. Luckily, they liked it. Okay. And so for this example, this department had 400 sworn officers at the time, and I taught them all. After presentations, we saw 289 of them come in to get a wellness check, to get labs, to get things. And so that started rolling. And then guess what? Other departments heard about it. And they're like, what's that department doing? We want to get that at ours, right? Because
exactly.
So last year I taught that foundation nutrition presentation almost 200 times to different departments. Wow. Yeah.
Nice.
So it literally started with a conversation with an assistant chief that saw a need. And it's a great forward-thinking department that keeps bringing me in. I guess they like me by now. I've done ride-alongs. I've got to shoot at the range. I've done a lot of first, and they've taken me in as a part of the team. And so I just continue to be a student for them and learn from them as much as they learn from me.
Gotcha. These labs are important to check. Absolutely. Yeah. Jen's making a wonderful point there. Those labs are important to check. I know just from working on nutrition and actually going to get checkups and things like you see what the body's doing. Us as first responders, we believe that we're unbreakable, we're invincible until something. Normally we find out when something's already broken, as opposed to going in for a maintenance check and catching it before it becomes a bigger problem. And we're stubborn like that, and we know we are, and it's a shame, but we got to get out of that mindset itself.
Yeah. And you're exactly right. And so a big part of my job is not just to educate, but it's to connect. And so if I can connect with somebody, whether it's a presentation or just coming in the office doing something else, and I'm able to have a conversation, find out what's important to them, whether it's family, whether it's, whatever it is, that's where I can kind of get a little bit of that buy-in for them to trust, which is hard to do, to trust and start opening up and understanding that, yes, I can direct them, but it's ultimately them deciding that they need that help. And more often we're seeing it because they hear from their buddies. They're like, hey, we just went in and I just got my labs done. And I realized that I was not just tired because of the job, but that I had 0 vitamin D levels, which are an indicator of fatigue. For those of you in colder states, like where you are in Pennsylvania, you're covered up. And we know that vitamin D is best absorbed in the sunlight on our core. And so if we're not getting that, when I lived in Oregon, it was the same. That can cause fatigue. And we chase it with energy drinks and things why? Ask yourself. And I encourage people to say, why? Why are we tired? There's mitigating factors that we could look at. So when I go teach, it's always that idea too of, that's that first conversation. And I hope it leads to a second conversation, because then I've piqued their interest. And then that way we can start that process.
Yeah, I agree. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Jen, the sponsors are telling me we got to cut to a commercial. I'm sorry, you're on a roll right now. I hate to cut you off, but we're going to cut to a commercial and come right back. However, when we come back, we're going to talk about, meal plan, prepping for shift work and things like that. So you can, we'll cover that. I want to jump right into it now. I'm so excited. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, stand by. We will be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant Be Safe here. We're going to do a roll call. Let me introduce you to the rest of the lineup. And here we go.
Hey crew, Captain Chaos here. I'm also a canine handler. Here's my dog Kraken.
Hello everyone. I'm Major Payne, in charge of this crazy crew. Nothing gets by me.
Good day, all. I'm SWAT Specialist Clay Moore, always ready to swoop in and save the day.
Hello, folks. It's the Eagle of Justice swooping in. provide advice to set things right.
Hello, Sergeant Be Safe, Captain Chaos. I'm your new district attorney, just in case.
He is our district attorney trying to clean up the streets.
Yes, locking up bad guys.
All rise. I am the Honorable Judge Mint.
I'm a district attorney scot-free, and my guys didn't do it.
Ooh, I think I'm gonna like this city. Rob you blind here, and I'm here to cause total chaos.
Yeah, I'm Treacherous Tony. I deal illegal drugs and pills. My new friends Robbie Blind and Chance Wilder brought me into their crew.
Chance Wilder at your service.
I guess I'll just cross the street here.
You guys remember what almost happened to Megan. She doesn't always pay attention.
Oh, geez. I didn't even see that car coming.
Hello, welcome back to my classroom. In case you forgot, I am Mrs. Gaynor.
Hello, my name is Maya. I can tell this is going to be my new favorite class.
Hello, I'm Nasty Nina, and I'm gonna divorce this guy and take him for everything he's got.
And I am her attorney, Wacky Techie, and I have nothing else better to do.
I'm Hal Monitor, the neighborhood watchman. I'll tell Sergeant Be Safe about any suspicious activity.
Oh my goodness, curriculum save me. Donde está? Tengo hace frío. That's why I'm a sergeant and you're not. I'm afraid. I'm worried. I'm trying to wait on these customers. I'm over here at Mario's bar. I'm afraid that something's gonna happen. You said you were gonna be here. You're not here, and I need you here now.
I am the esteemed and pristine Reverend Wade Waters. You make sure you make it here on the right day at the right time, because I got the right seat for you, all right? And that wraps up Roll Call for you. See more educational skits on the podcast Black and Blue. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
And shout out to Sergeant Be Safe in those voiceovers. If you haven't already done so, make sure you check out Sergeant Be Safe's very own YouTube page where you can see those entertaining skits one at a time at your own leisure. But we're jumping right back into this podcast, and I'm excited about it, and I hope you guys are too. We got Kim Cairns here, the nutritionist, and I want to talk about meal prepping and staying healthy while preparing to have meals on shift, whether you're working 8-hour shift, a 10-hour shift, 12 hours. If you got to work overnight, midday, middle of the day, or swing shift, like I'm familiar with doing, working 12 hours and going from 2 weeks days and 2 weeks nights, and then 2 weeks days, and then back to 2 weeks nights. It's difficult to find the right amount of sleep, to find the right times to eat. And even if you do plan out a meal, then that's when the call comes in where you can't get to a microwave to heat it up, or you're holding a perimeter and you have to stay there on scene, or just you're going from back to back accident to domestic to a false alarm. So many different things happen through the course of our shift that no matter how we plan our meals properly, it still doesn't always work the way we have it set out in our mind. So Kim, can you give us a little bit of advice on staying healthy, getting our hydration, and getting the right amounts of food at the right amounts of time during shift, please?
Sure. That's a lot. We're going to unpack it in little pieces there.
There we go.
So one of the things when I work with first responders is dialing into some sort of eating plan. And that doesn't mean it has to be 100% perfect every day to be effective. A lot of times, even if we do it 4 or 5 days a week, that's ultimately the goal, right? Is not to be perfect. guys that are listening, you guys have an option to eat either a first meal or intermittent fast till kind of that lunchtime, whatever your lunch would be. And I usually give the option. I have detailed written out times for days, swings, and graves for my officers, depending on what shift they're working. Now, with that being said, why I say guys is because intermittent fasting is not so great for women. It's fine to do occasionally because it gets us that output, or that maybe that weight loss that we're looking for or whatever. But long term, it's very, very harsh on women's hormones. So in the long run, you're going to see more things start happening on labs. I always say, guys, you can do whatever the hell you want. You can eat or not, and you're probably going to lose 10 pounds just by taking coffee creamer out of your coffee. And I'll gain 5, but that's cool. I'm not bitter. But I think the idea is to have a plan, whether it's an intermittent fast during your work days and then eating breakfast with your families on the weekends, intermittent fasting a couple days here and there. And basically what that looks like is kind of, I'm going to use a day shift, for example. It would look like doing kind of your water electrolytes. I'll teach you here shortly how to build a coffee that won't break a fast, called a bulletproof coffee. And then you eat around 11 or 12 for your first meal. That first meal is imperative that it's something savory. So something with good protein, good healthy fats, like hard-boiled eggs or a handful of nuts and something like that if you're on the go. Where we fall short sometimes is that first meal tends to be abundantly sweet and lacks fiber and protein. Okay. So if I drive through and grab a Starbucks latte and a muffin or a big ass breakfast sandwich and an abundance of simple carbs, that's going to perpetuate a couple of different things. It's going to spike and dip my blood sugar. So then I'm going to be in the gas station grabbing an energy drink to get back up, or it's going to perpetuate wanting simple carbs and sweets throughout the day because it actually activates a hunger hormone in our body that's created in our stomach. Called ghrelin. Okay. Do you remember? Okay, we're around the same age. Do you remember Gremlins? The movie Gremlins. Okay.
Yeah, I do.
I met an officer today. He was in his 20s. He's like, "What's that? That sounds like an old movie." And I'm like, "Oh my god." Yes, I was born in the 80s. I'm sorry, but
and it's right around Christmas time too.
I know, it's like that and Die Hard. Those are the two best movies to watch, right? So my point, I have a point. So my point being, in Gremlins, when little Gizmo gets activated, you start seeing all those gremlins everywhere, right? They're hard to get rid of. Well, I equate that to ghrelin in our stomach. If you start with something sweet, like in your coffee or granola bar or a muffin or something, you are going to be finding yourself wanting ice cream after dinner because it perpetuates that. Why do you think they bring us a bread basket or chips and salsa? Because it perpetuates ghrelin, so you eat more during the meal. That's like a tactic. If you didn't know.
I do now.
Yeah. So I mean, I love chips and salsa, so I'm not saying don't eat it. I'm just saying there's little steps we can do. But going back to what you said. So let's say all is well, you're planning, you're bringing your meals, or you're going out to eat places and doing the best you can. The biggest factor is being prepared to you guys prepare your body for uniform, for your vehicle, right? You set yourself up for work. Now I ask and I challenge a lot of times, prepare your body mentally and physically for your shift as well, right?
Right.
And how do we do that? Well, it's not about being a chef and being a cook. It's about understanding the difference between nutrient dense snacks and calorie dense. Okay. And so let's say that I can't make a meal, or I don't have access to a microwave or refrigerator, but I learned from taking Kim's class that if I throw a granola bar, chips, something quick like that with calories and high carbohydrates, I'm going to be hungry in an hour, right? It's not going to fuel my body. Nutrient dense focuses on more of higher fat and protein. So things like beef jerky, meat sticks, I'm drawing a blank real quick. Nuts, hard-boiled eggs, things like that you could grab at the gas station, right? for things at the gas station. So if we just start looking at more nutrient dense, being prepared on shift, having that in my vehicle where I can grab and go, as opposed to thinking we have to meal prep everything, that's where a shift kind of starts changing. Because so oftentimes when I'm working like in the fire departments, they say, Kim, we make this nice meal. And then we call, and then I'm not eating for 3 hours, right? And I know you cops are like, oh, you guys have a kitchen, you're fine.
I know. Bragging.
I know. So, but what I say to them is that's where snacks come into play. That's where you have your plan A when everything goes well. What's the plan B, right? Just like when you're on a call, you're assessing the situation, you're having you have your team, you have a plan. Same thing with your body. I want you guys, and my biggest message is to have a plan before you go on shift. And that doesn't mean you have to plan out your whole week and, have all your Tupperwares rocking on the counter and take an Instagram photo like, cool, I got the plan for the week. What that looks like is before your head hits the pillow, have a plan. What are you doing the next day? Will you be on shift? Okay, that means I got to throw some snacks in my vehicle. That means I need to have my water bottle, and I know what I can order at Chipotle to keep my blood sugar at bay.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the starting point there.
Gotcha. I like that, and I remember when I was a younger officer, and I could just pretty much work an entire shift, whether it's day shift or night shift, and then you can go to the gas station, you can go to local diner and eat whatever and still feel fine because your metabolism was high and you were young and you were just ready to go and you were eager and ready. And then after a while, things start to slow down and you picked up those bad habits and staying up all night. And then I even know guys now, I'm not a big gamer, but guys who will stay up all night working and then stay up half the morning because they're playing their game as well, and they're not getting ample amount of sleep. But if you prepare, I switched over by bringing a cooler in my car with me and having sandwiches ready to go. I had fruit in there, nuts in there as well, things like that. So my goal was to never get stuck on a perimeter to where I can't get back to my car and at least get something to snack on to mitigate the hunger or to mitigate what do you call it? I'm drawing a blank now as well. The hunger pains when you're angry, when you're hangry.
Oh, hangry, yes.
To mitigate being hangry and being on a call, that's the worst.
Yes, for sure. Coolers are fantastic. I've done several ride-alongs with different departments here. And I noticed such a difference between some of the guys that would be prepared. They'd have their cooler and very simplistic things. That's the thing. I think people think when you have to be healthy, you have to like spend $1 gazillion and you have to meal prep and learn how to cook. It's not. It's about learning. And one of the basics and one of the fundamentals I teach is how do you pair food to get the most out of your body? And so a big part of that is not about dialing in and counting. You can, and that's kind of third step when I work with people is counting, not calories, but macros and understanding how to eat for performance. But the foundation of it is really understanding the 3 macros and how they work together and how they give us stable blood sugar. So the 3 macros are fat, protein, and carbohydrates. Okay. Those are our 3. Okay? So what I teach is when you have a carbohydrate alone, I always say, don't have naked carbs. And then the guys all perk up. They're like, what's she talking about? What class are we in again? Okay. Don't have naked carbs. You have to put clothes on your carbs of fat and protein. So if you were to eat that fruit in your cooler, that's great. It has good fiber, but it also is a carbohydrates, which has sugars, right? When we eat carbohydrates alone, that's what spikes our blood sugar and dips our blood sugar. Gotcha. So if you were to take that apple and throw a handful of, pistachios or nuts with it, fat and protein, there you go. Now you've just stabilized your blood sugar. Okay. So you can have, if you want toast in the morning, do toast, but don't just throw jam on it. Throw an egg on it. That's fat and protein. Okay. So once you start learning how to pair food, things become a lot easier and simplistic. Okay. So you can eat fat and protein by itself. So if I just want 2 hard-boiled eggs or something like that. But what happens when you bring a component of carbohydrates, it has fiber. So blueberries, right, is a good low glycemic fruit. When you throw blueberries with it, it sustains your hunger longer, and then it also helps stabilize blood sugar. So many first responders are lacking in fiber. Oh my gosh. I work constantly with digestive issues with people, and they're afraid to tell me. And I'm like, this is a real question. I need to know what's happening. I need to know.
Yeah, it's true. I know. Speaking of gut health, we were talking about that in one of the trainings that I attended most recently, and you know, you can't work you can't do a workout past your diet, regardless if you're going out for wings and having beer, and it becomes a steady, constant thing. Then your gut health is always taking a hit, which therefore you're always tired. Even if you're up, you start, your skin gets blotchy, things go on, and you don't have that digestive tract like you used to, and it's all from the gut health itself. And we just really honed in on that during this training, and like the guys are like, yeah, we all work out, we still run, we do this, but yeah, we still eat like trash as well.
Yeah. And that gut. So can we talk about that gut health
Yeah,
there's a lot of components
absolutely.
about it. Yeah. So gut health, I think when we think of the gut, we think of digestion a lot, right? And it is. It's a big component of it. But the gut is the window to the body. And I teach a lot about, especially with first responders, how our brain and our gut are interconnected between this highway called the vagus nerve. Okay. It runs.
That's why we get hangry.
Yeah, right. Tells our brain like we should yell because our stomachs are empty, or we should be angry. And it's true, because 90%, 90 of your serotonin. So when you are happy, Cleve, then that's your serotonin, right? Your endorphins, is created in our gut. 70% of our immune system is created in our gut. So as a former teacher and a mom to 2 boys, I can attest to this, that after Halloween, my boys ate candy for a few days, and I was like, I have 2 demon children all of a sudden. What is happening? And then my oldest son, Dawson, he got sick 2 days after Halloween. So it's no coincidence why cold and flu season happens in January, February, because what's happening in November and December.
Yeah, all of the big holidays and the overeating. Yeah.
Yeah, grandma has the big bowl of candy out. They're always bringing in, love the community, but they're bringing in lots of treats for you guys. I want to stand outside the stations and be like, you know how you guys can really feed these first responders? It's not with sugar. So the idea is, so let's go back to the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the highway from our brain to our gut. When our environment of our gut gets thrown off, it throws off our metabolic system, which translates to hypertension. It translates to prediabetes, triglycerides, high cholesterol. It affects our sleep tremendously. Okay. Because if we're trying to we get off shift and then we do a hard workout and eat a huge meal and we're trying to sleep on that, that's not great, because our bodies are digesting as opposed to restoring and repairing and creating melatonin for that sleep. But it also affects that mood component. So an analogy that one of my providers, so one of the nurse practitioners I work with, we talked a lot about the environment. So I hear a lot of people like, hey, Kim, should I start doing probiotics? Because I heard that's good for the gut, right? That adds that good bacteria. But first, before we fertilize, we have to look at the environment. So the analogy, right? The analogy is, I'm going to use this analogy of this cat lady analogy. Bear with me for a second. I'm a dog person, and my dog is sleeping right now, but his name's Benny the Jet Rodriguez, for those of you that have watched The Sandlot, because he's really cool. And I thought I was going to marry Benny the Jet Rodriguez, so now he's my dog. So
I love it.
I know. So this idea, let's say you came over to my house, Clee, and we go in my backyard and I have a cat and we feed the cat. The next day we notice he made a few friends. They're eating the food. So we bring more food out there to him. Okay. By the end of the week, we notice now we have a dozen cats in my backyard and we keep feeding them the food. So the idea is, think of your gut, right? As we kept feeding these cats, the environment changed. The grass started dying because they're shitting everywhere, and everything can't flourish back there. The birds stopped coming around because of the environment, and all these cats are back there. So if we translate that to the gut, when I ask the guys in trainings, I'm like, how do we get rid of the cats? What do you think they say as law enforcement? They're like, we're going to shoot him. We're going to I'm like, or we could take away the food. One of the two.
Yeah, I was gonna go the safe route, but I know I was gonna go the podcast answer, but I know the realistic answer is
right. Okay, so I took one for the team on that.
You're good. You're good though.
Okay, so that idea is if we simply look at that environment, what is causing this environment to change? The food. We're providing the food to the cat. So if we take out that food, the environment changes. It goes back. The grass starts growing again in the trees and the birds. My cat doesn't have any friends now, but that's okay. But the idea is, if you think of your gut, if you're having lots of digestive issues, if your mood has been off, if your sleep has been off, we have to take away, or at least put the brakes a little bit on how you're signaling the gut and how you are creating this environment. When we take away that, let's say it's an abundance of sugar in your diet. And I have this cool graphic. If we poured the amount of sugar of one soda a day in a big bag, it's 4 pounds of sugar in a month.
Wow.
4 pounds. Okay.
Wow, that is a lot.
And so a lot of people say, oh, I just drink one soda a day. It's just my one thing in the afternoon. Yeah. Eventually we'd love to get that turned off, because that's signaling the gut. And now you're not flourishing here. So after we work on the fundamentals of the hydration, starting our morning, having snacks on shift, you kind of see where I'm going, then we can fertilize. Then we can start adding in the good gut healing foods. And then we can dial in on more eating for performance in terms of counting macros and understanding. But I think most of the time, what nutrition dials into and why it doesn't work is because it focuses on it all at once. And people are very successful for like a month maybe, and they drop a bunch of weight. How do you sustain it? How do you sustain it when you have call outs? How do you sustain it when you guys, have a new baby at home? Anything, if I just drink that water, I know I'm having one accomplishment a day. And that's where that confidence keeps staying through careers, because you can always go back to it when you get off.
Yeah. That's a good analogy. That's a good story. That kind of makes it's so easy to hear it that way, because I think we overcomplicate things by trying to do too much or overload ourselves, but making it simple like that makes it sound like it's so doable.
It is. And that's the thing, is nutrition's so damn confusing, because you hear about, should I be doing this diet? Should I be drinking this drink or not eating? And that it's really, really hard to decipher. But I always say, if it works for you and it's sustainable, do that. So I have a lot of guys doing carnivore or some crazy diet where they're just eating steak for every meal. And what I say to them, they're like, Kim's going to judge me. She's going to tell me to eat vegetables. And you know what? And I think they cross their arms just like that. And they're like, what you going to do? What are you going to say to me?
Yeah. I'm still going to eat my steak.
Yeah. And what I say to them that surprises them, I say, is it working for you? They're like, yeah. I'm like, do your labs look good? Yeah. Then do that. And I'll support you with whatever is working for you. There's no one size fits all. However, there are a few fundamentals that are really, really essential to that. And, I had this AOT training where I had he was 29, sitting in the front row, officer, pretty new. And he told me he was having heart palpitations. I said, so what's your caffeine intake? And he's like, well, I drink 3 energy drinks a day, and I kind of don't eat most of my shift. And I'm like, so I handed him my card and I say, I'll see you in my office. But it's funny because he was so proud of it. And all the veteran guys in there were like, oh my God, it was crazy to see that, because we see this trend of energy drinks and sugars and the, nicotine and all these types of things that are happening. So I never in a million years, I really didn't think he would come into my office. And 8 months later, he came to my office and he goes, do you remember me? And I said, I absolutely remember you. I go, how's your heart? And he goes, you'd be surprised to know that after your class, I started dialing back my energy drinks ever so slightly, kind of one down to 2, down to 1. And he goes, I'm currently not drinking any energy drinks. And you know what I asked him? Well, one, I was very proud of him, but I said to him, I go, how is your energy? And he goes, the best it's ever been. So it is crazy.
Yeah. Good for him.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know I was energy drink. I at least had one per night shift, normally right in the middle of the night. And you would get that spike. And eventually you kind of replace the energy drink instead of the water intake. And then you would get crampy. You would, that spike would go. So I totally understand. I didn't do 3 a day and not eat. That's wow.
Well, and a lot of times what I say is I'm not necessarily against energy drinks. There's better ones than other ones, let's just say. But what I always say is before that, let's consider, or I always say, have you considered? I never say you should, because then that's, of course you're going to do the opposite. But I always say, why don't you consider getting hydration, getting at least 30 to 40 ounces before that lunchtime and getting a meal in, and then consider that. Because there's so oftentimes I see when I teach morning briefings and the guys are all lined up with their energy drinks. In fact, I had a guy hide his energy drink around water bottles so I couldn't see them. And I'm like, I mean, dude, we're adults. Like, just drink your energy drink. It's okay. I'm not judging. But I said to him, like, have you drank any water before that? And he goes, no. And I'm like, when are you eating? Typically I eat around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So we forget that if we hydrate, get some food, and then have that energy drink, your roller coaster won't be so bumpy going down.
Gotcha. And you were speaking on different kinds of coffees as well.
Oh yeah. So let's touch on that too real quick. So there's a thing out there. It kind of started with the keto diets and some of the higher fat diets, which, to each its own, if that works for you. But one way, those are listening that are doing an intermittent fast, starting with the water electrolytes is not going to break your fast. What breaks fast is introducing carbohydrates and sugars. Okay. So one of the best things to put in your coffee is collagen peptides. Have you ever heard of collagen peptides before?
I have, yes.
Is that something you're going to consider too, potentially?
You see the setup. Wow, you are. This is why you respond well with first responders. I love the suggestion. I love the leading questions instead of the you should, shall, and make me, because you're telling me what to do. I'm definitely going the other way.
No. So this is just opening the brain, because you're like, wait, maybe I should consider it. That sounds cool. Like Jeff was saying, start with one thing. That's exactly what I did in his case. Is we started with breakfast. We started the first portion of his day. And so that idea is a bulletproof coffee. You asked me, I think it was a question about mental resiliency and having that being keen on shift and being able to react and pull our weapon and answer, multitask. I've seen it. It blows my mind how much you guys multitask on a call. And in order to have that, we must feed our brain. We have to feed our brain. Our brain is made of fat. If we are depleting our body in fats and relying simply on carbohydrates and sugar, you will have brain fog. You will be sleepy on shift. So if you start your shift with that foundation of collagen peptides is a protein. It is one ingredient. It's unflavored. You throw it in hot coffee. And what it does is several things. Collagen's the most abundant protein in our body. So as we start aging, if you were to go out there and play football, your joints and your muscles are going to hurt a little bit more probably than they did when you were 18. Just a hunch. I'm guessing.
Just a tad bit, but yeah.
But that idea is collagen makes up our joints and our muscles. So as we start aging, we lose collagen in our joints and our muscles. Not because we're getting old, we're losing collagen. Collagen makes up hair, skin, and nails. So as the aging process, that's why our skin dries out and we get more wrinkles. Lastly, collagen makes up the lining of your gut. So we're talking about the environment, right? How do we change the environment? How do we hone in on that? So instead of coffee mate creamer or a bunch of pumps of sugar-free something in our coffee, we put a scoop of collagen we've just added protein, and now we add a little fat. So if you want a true fast, you wouldn't do this, but you could throw in some half and half or heavy cream or something. One ingredient. We're not after a bunch of ingredients in our coffee creamer. If you want a true fast, then you would throw, it sounds funny, but you would throw a little grass-fed butter or ghee in your coffee, which is butter just without the lactose in it.
Oh, wow.
And that gives you healthy fat. And there's so much talk about fat being bad for us. You know, fat makes us fat. We got to stay away from it. Kim, I have high cholesterol. I shouldn't eat butter. No, it's the idea that we got to find out what is healthy fats. Healthy fats are good oils like avocado oil, coconut oil, olive oil. Grass-fed butter is really, really a good source of good HDL healthy fats. Okay. We don't want LDL. LDL is what I call loser fat. We don't want that fat. Okay. That's in the forms of more cooking oils like seed oils, canola oils, fried foods, things like that. And so long story short, collagen, a little fat from butter or ghee, or on Amazon, they have the Bulletproof brand. It's powdered grass-fed butter and MCT oil, which is a great thing just to mix in coffee and bring to the station. It's portable. So that way, so now you've just hit your body with water and electrolytes. You've hit your body with some protein and fat. Okay. And then you can sustain that if you're not going to kind of break your fast till around 11 or 12. That protein and fat is going to fill you up and curb your appetite.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. A couple comments on the floor. Thank you for that. The breakdown and with collagen peptides. I have heard of them. I've never tried them before. I actually thought that I didn't know that they were bland and tasteless. I actually thought they had a bitter taste to them from what I heard from someone else. So therefore I'm learning as we're going.
Yeah, and I think different brands, I mean, they have a couple at, Costco's or things like that, but you're looking for unflavored. So a lot of the collagens also have, a sugar component. So there they are trying to sneak in the sugar when in fact, just get the plain. I've had many veteran 20-year lieutenant sergeants. They're like, I like my black coffee. Don't put anything in my coffee, Kim. And I'm like, have you considered trying this? And look I have a sample you can try right now. And then they do it and they're like, okay, I don't taste it at all. That's cool. I'll try that.
The ultimate saleswoman.
I know. And ultimately I had a guy, state trooper in my office 2 weeks later, and he goes, what did you do to me? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, my skin's so soft and supple. What did you do?
I'm gonna feel like a kid again. Jen's comment on here. I love collagen peptides. I found a great brand at Costco. I throw in my coffee with half and half, just like you said. I've noticed the benefits. And yes, and Jeff, the Eagle of Justice, Jeff Dawkins, Vital Protein is the way to go. Yeah, we're you guys are already on it. And those of us that are not on it right now, we're learning right now, which is a good thing because health and wellness go hand in hand. And if you got, especially since your gut and brain are connected, I mean, you might as well, you got to feed the gut what it needs to survive and to maintain on shift, to be focused and win that battle.
Absolutely. And one other note with that, if you don't drink hot coffee, and you're drinking some bougie iced coffee or whatever you're doing, you can also get it. You could throw that in soups and sauces. You could throw it in. It doesn't mix well in cold is what I want to make sure I preface, because you're going to hate me if you throw it in cold water. It's going to not be good. But the other way,
clump up, or it just doesn't. Okay.
Yes, it's gross. You don't want to do that. And so the other way to get collagen is actually, if you've ever heard of bone broth, it's just like chicken stock, bone, it's like chicken stock or bone broth. It's just the way they cook down the stock. It's 1 cup's 10 grams of protein. And so you simply don't want to eat anything, or you just want to sip on that, or make a big pot of soup. You could also cook bone broth with rice instead of water. And remember, if we go back to a earlier conversation, that rice is a carb. Now we've just thrown fat and protein with it. And so that's a way to balance blood sugars as well.
Yeah. Learning. I appreciate it. Thank you for explaining all that and educating us with that as well. I wish I could have put up all of your the slides that you sent, or the information, the handouts, but I do have this one right here, the guide right here. Can you explain this to any first responder or first responder family member what
Yeah.
is good and bad about this list right here. I'll see if I
Yeah.
can.
And you'll notice some of the first responders here in Phoenix will be walking around and they'll run into each other with this list. It's happened before because they're like, oh, you're shopping too at the same. So I created a list because it's not realistic to think we're going to cook every single meal, right? We need to have some processed foods, things that are broken down simply, but not with the added sugars and all the crap that goes with it. So this is a nice explanation of things that we can buy that can be good grab and goes. And I put it through categories from nuts and nut butters that don't have all the added sugars and canola oils. So those are a nice clean version to add into smoothies, to have a thing of nuts on your desk, things like that. Protein sources, that blue little container, that's a collagen peptides that Jeff was talking about. Different protein sources, dairy snacks, higher protein chips. I'm love chips. So those are some options. Good cooking oils, drinks. Just things that we know when life happens, we're able to have some grab and goes to go with as well, because like, for example, I'm a full-time working mom. I have 2 boys that are in baseball. So for me to think I'm going to cook every single meal, I get home at 4:30 and my kiddos are playing at 6. It's not happening every time.
Right.
So I have my specific out to eat places that I know I can order things and stay pretty close to on track. And then I have I'm known as the snack queen. I always have snacks in my purse. And now my boys' friends know that I have snacks in my purse. So they always come to me asking. So I think that that's having visuals, because I was an educator for so long and I still am. I can tell people, I can talk about it, but when we see it and we hear it and we write it down, that's when it sticks too.
Yeah, I'm a visual person myself, so I totally understand it. I have to see it to understand it. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. So that's why I draw a lot during my classes. I write a lot on the board.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Kim, I appreciate everything that you shared with us. I appreciate you answering the questions and explaining things and the analogies that you shared with us. Through the course of conversation, I may have forgot to ask a question, or I may have even jogged your memory on something else that you wanted to unload on us in a positive way. Is there anything else that you want to share with us right now? The floor is yours.
Yeah, I think we covered everything that I was thinking about when it comes to fundamentals with nutrition. I think the main thing that I just want that message to be is that there is support. There is, the biggest thing is to start with something. And a lot of times we get labs back that are scary. But when I look at those labs, especially with a lot of my law enforcement, is a roadmap. Now we have a game plan, right? We know what we're deficient in. We know what we have to work on. And I think that's really, really important, just to start with something and be able to reach out and ask for that help to do that. I was telling you in the beginning, before we even started the live video, is, I may be an educator, but at the end of the day, I'm always a student. And so if there's anything that I can do to help support first responders, that's why I do what I do, is because what I see and the ultimate change. And I know Jeff's on right now, and what I love about his story is, yes, he started with just breakfast, right? He started with just working with me on that, and now it's threaded throughout his entire family. His wife is on board, his boys are on board, and so that's the coolest thing that I love, is not just working with a first responder, but ultimately changing generations now, because we're providing that foundation for kids, So I think, at the end of the day, I'm still learning. I'm still don't do everything right in my own right. I sit and I'll eat a big ass pizza at the end of the day. Heck yeah, I absolutely do that. But I think the main thing is that consistency. And when we get off consistency, we know where to go back to, and that's our fundamentals.
Yeah. I meant to bring us both on. Let me fix this. Sorry about that. But yes, I love how you explain that, and especially understanding anyone who's done any athletics or any kind of training itself, especially in the law enforcement community. Every time if we start shooting wrong or going to the range, if we're working a drill wrong, we overthink it, overcompensate. Always getting back to the basics, always coming back to the fundamentals is a way to start. And I think you've explained that perfectly. You're wonderful to have here in the law enforcement community. Obviously, a game changer. perfect information sharing. I mean, I can't say it any better. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you do for the community. I appreciate you do for keeping us healthy through the shift, and so that we can also make it to retirement and not fall into the statistics of after once first responders retire, we're passed on within 3 to 5 years. We want life right after retirement too. This is still a whole second chapter to do. So
I want that for all of you too. And that's why I wake up every single morning and do what I do, because you guys are worth it. Thank you for your service. Thank everybody that's listening, because you guys are that's the reason why I wake up every morning, and I love what I do. And with that, my work's not done, and there's a lot more people to reach and a lot more people to help. And just knowing that that's available, I hope that people listen and take advantage of that.
I believe so. You're doing a wonderful thing in the community. Shayla T's on here. Great information and advice from what a wonderful special role that you have. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. Yes. Thank you for all you do in the community. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you're coming in late, if you missed most of the show, or you just need to get that recap, make sure you tag, like, and share. Watch this. Share this amongst your friends and family. This is a good, informative interview. Kim's a great person to have on the show. Jen, thank you so much as well for tuning in. This is a wonderful information. Make sure if you have any questions, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, if they find you on LinkedIn, are they able to send you a message if they have any questions about anything, if anyone who's watching this podcast?
100%. Absolutely. I'm an open book. You ask me all the questions. It's what I eat and live and breathe is nutrition questions. So I love it.
Great. Kim, thank you for donating your time coming on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you guys tune in. This is Black and Blue, the podcast is just for you, where we go live weekly at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And when we go live with a first responder or a law enforcement official, whether they're rookie, seasoned, or retiree, and we talk about their training experiences and publications. And we definitely did not fall short today. This is a much needed conversation, especially talking about gut health, mental resiliency, all falls into one. We're trying to make sure that the body component is still working at a high level all the way through our entire career and transcending on to retirement. So make sure you guys take care of yourself. This is the podcast where we go live weekly. I already covered that. I'm redundant right now. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. We will be coming to you again next week. So make sure you guys tune in at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care of each other. We all love you. Have a good night. And here's Sergeant Be Safe to take us out.
Here's my chance. No cameras, no security systems, nothing.
Looks like trouble is a brewing, Captain Chaos. I just got an alert. I think there's something going on at Mario's restaurant. We might need to head down there and check it out.
We have to meet them, Sergeant Be Safe. Let's go.
Oh my goodness, this is just awful. I'm ruined, I tell you, I'm ruined. Sergeant Be Safe, Captain Chaos, I need you here now. Not later, but right now. Who would want to do such a thing around here? This has always been a great place.
Captain, it's Mario. That alert we got is absolutely right. He's having trouble over there. All right, Mario. I hear you. We're definitely on the way. We're leaving right now.
Together we fight crime and keep everyone safe.
Sergeant Be Safe, Captain Chaos. We have a theft mystery on our hands. The valuable items from Mario's place are missing, and we need to get to the bottom of this.
I saw Robbie Blind hanging around the back entrance of the restaurant before the theft occurred.
We're here. Oh boy, this place is a mess. I can see why you're upset, Mario. We're going to gather some evidence and take some pictures. This has Rob You Blind written all over it. We're going to get to the bottom of this.
I'm just glad we were able to help before things got bad.
Oh no! I'm out of here. It's Be Safe.
Hold on, Rob You Blind. What's that in your hand? That thing says Mario's Restaurant on it. Where'd you get it from?
Bad decision.
Ooh. Rob You Blind, you're caught. Hands up. You're going back to jail. And business owners, it's good to have good working cameras, an alarm system, and motion sensor lights so you don't become a victim too. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
I'm not a bad cop.
I never once said you were. It would be real simple if the problem was bad cops. It ain't.